Kristen on the call?
Sorry, I just unmuted you.
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
I think Lyle's planning to jump on too at some point.
All right, sounds good. All right, we'll call to order. First up on the agenda is look at the minutes from last month's meeting and entertain a motion to approve or to adjust the minutes as presented.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you.
Second it.
Thank you. Michelle and Nancy, the first and second on that one. Minutes are approved. All right, let's go right into it. Seventh Avenue Furniture, decision points.
Yeah, so I sent this after we had our walkthrough last month. Hard to remember whenever we did it. And so I just tried to like piece together the things that I feel like we need to kind of narrow down on what we want to decide. So some type of consensus on type of benches. A little bit consensus on dining seating, if we want to have that uniform look instead of different sidewalk dining furniture. Public art, if we wanted to have what we were initially going to look for locations for public art when we were doing the walkthrough, but really there's not a lot of good spaces other than like at the depot. There's not a lot of room for it as far as like physically.
Are there some of those utility boxes there that could be painted? I mean, that can be public art.
Yeah, that's something we can talk about. Yeah. Because that's like murals or functional pieces, I think might be kind of a good route. That way it's not taking up 2 extra spaces. So like how there's with the benches. So this was where we went through for locations for furniture, and we kind of did a like high priority, medium priority, low priority. So that way, if we don't have much money, we can kind of plan for that. And then as far as budget goes, that's where I think that particularly if we can figure out ways to connect it with art, like the benches, if we like that direction of having it as like art pieces and benches type of thing, there might be some extra funding there. And there's a grant with T-Mobile that they do every quarter, and it's for $50,000. It's like a national one, but I think if we applied for that, that would probably have a pretty good chance for it. So I think there's some grant opportunity and some fundraising opportunities, and we've got some budget available, but I think we'll have to just think of how we want to fund it depending on how cost expensive things are. So things to think about with the benches is we'll want to talk with Public Works on their opinions on maintenance. Just because I know the benches that are on Main Street, they've been there for a while. Some of them are in better shape than others. And so they've had some comments on types of benches as far as if we went with the metal ones, they might be slightly different than the ones that are on Main Street because they have some different layouts that they prefer. But the metal ones could be like the branded ones with the logo and everything if we decide to go that way. I already mentioned about benches that could be incorporated with public art for fundraising opportunities, might have some possibilities there. We do for the benches on Main Street, we have the plaques on them. I will say that if we do the plaques, I'd like to kind of revisit how we do that. Because when they did the plaques initially, there wasn't any kind of like, if the plaque is for the life of the individual bench, or the plaques are there forever, no matter if there's new benches or not. And so we're kind of running into that question right now. I think that they're
For the bench.
I think the language that we had was that plaques are there forever.
Might need to say minimum of 5 years.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
or an increased sponsorship or something, because that's what we've had a couple, we don't have any more plaques for benches on Main Street. And we've had to take a couple of benches out because of repair. And so then we've had people call and be like, where's my plaque at? And they paid like $1,000 or $1,200, 10 years ago or something like that. And so that's something that,
Yeah,
that we'll need to kind of be thinking about. Another consideration of picking one style. That we should have, like, once we settle on a style, that should be for all of seventh, so we don't have, mix and match benches for, at least for seventh, because it'll, just like for Main Street, we want them all to look the same for that general area. And then the rest further down Seventh and Locust Street, and Maple.
Now, you did put up there that whatever $30,000 that was budgeted for Seventh for furniture is not available now till 2027.
So whenever we do the budget, we do a capital improvement budget, and so we put in like those like one-time costs. And so the budget department looks and sees what our budget is looking like, and then they'll decide if it can be in this year or it needs to get pushed off. And so they were in for last year too. But that's not necessarily to say that it's not something we can reappropriate later in the year once they see what the budget is looking like, and where a lot of it's dependent on how sales tax is coming in for the city. Because the districts Main Street gets 5% of the city's sales tax collection, and Seventh Avenue gets 1%. And so if sales tax is coming in strong over budget, then we've got more money to work with, but they're being pretty conservative about all that right now. It's just kind of questionable on what things are going to be looking like.
So that wasn't part of the original budget for the whole streetscape?
It was, but then the overall cost for the project had gone up so much that there had to be things that were pulled for the Seventh Avenue project budget. And then just put back into ours. And so there's been like bike racks are already going in because that's getting pulled from some different funds. And so and also what we do on Main Street is like, we've got our annual budget that has like supplies and materials and things like that. And normally that never gets to paying for that it never gets to the budget or above it through the year. So we've usually got money that's available that at the end of the year that we've kind of built in as cushion for it. So either kind of a couple at a time purchase is something that we can do, or if it gets into the capital one, then it can be kind of a one-time bigger purchase. But like I said, I think that there's several ways to raise money. And then also, I didn't say before, but our Friends nonprofit budget is looking really strong now. And so even with the more money we've designated for like facade grants, we've still got money we can put towards it. So we could probably put pretty close to about $20,000 from the Friends budget towards it.
Depending on what bench, that's not going to go very far. maybe.
Yeah, so the Friends budget can kind of help support some of that if we decide we want to dedicate some of those funds toward it. So we've got money in different pots, but it's just a matter of outlining what we want to do. And then that way it can depend on if it's all in one go, or it's like buying 2 or 3 a year or something like that.
I understand all of this and budgeting and money and all that, but it just feels like we waited so long for this project to be completed. And there's been some good and bad talk about it, but it's a huge success. And I just feel like if we don't do something, it feels empty.
Yeah,
And we have the primo fundraising person as part of our group. I don't know, can we do something along that line so that we can start getting some benches out there?
yeah, we just need to know we need to decide sooner than later what we want to have, because we're not gonna buy it until we know what we want to buy. And so I'm not necessarily concerned about the funding, because I think that will come, but we got to know what
Right.
yeah.
Understand.
So we looked at these that were the wind turbines, that Yosemite, that's the lower profile one.
The Yosemite, you can't really do art on though.
No, they had those as options in their initial thing. So because there's still side on the space on the sides.
Yeah.
That could go for it.
So Jamie, I want to let you finish this presentation, but as far as this meeting and the outcome, Are we looking for strong recommendations for like first steps out of this team today?
What kind of recommendations?
A strong.
Yeah, like we can't really put anything out until we know what we want to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
since we met last month, I've thought about this a lot. I've also been kind of monitoring the activity on Seventh Avenue, so I do have some input as far as like an idea of, I think, like a first steps kind of idea with furniture. And I do agree with you. I think we should get something out there soon.
Yeah,
And if we just start small, we can always add to it, but something out there soon.
Gotta do something.
Yeah, something soon. And you know, I do, you know, if you look at Seventh Avenue and the overall effect right now, I take that away as a kind of a, it says to me, high quality, unique. It says like, it was a well-done project. So as far as utilizing a little bit alternative type of designer furniture, if you will, reclaim materials, I think it's totally falls in line with the overall look that we have right now.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, let me get to the, and then we can kind of have that, but I'm not disagreeing because I think we need furniture out there soon. We were talking about funding.
How far away is Huntersville?
It's actually very close to where Linda lives. It's about an hour and a half away. And they just emailed me last week that it's getting installed pretty soon, and it was the, not the one on here, it was one of the point ones. So it's not one that we'd be looking at for all our furniture, because those are a lot. But at least we can see
The materials.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it would take you guys about 2 hours to get there, but.
I can drive to Michigan. I can go 2 hours.
15 minutes.
Oh.
So.
Okay, at least-
You had mentioned, maybe I go over and.
Just kind of see what
Yeah.
it's still about.
Looks like.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's been installed yet. It's just one of them at a park, so it's gonna be kind of like a showpiece kind of thing. Okay, I already talked about the benches that kind of were uniform with the city. And then Linda had sent me a few others.
They're big city,
That's New York, the one in
Yeah.
the middle.
yeah.
And they use those little handles actually for accessibility too, so people can get up and down a little easier, and obviously it has other purposes.
Right.
The serpentine one at the bottom is really cool looking. I don't know
I
if
like
it fits I don't know if it fits Seventh Avenue, but
I don't know if we have enough space.
Mhm.
I love
it's more like a sculpture, a visual sculpture, right?
serpentine ones.
Mhm.
Make it a little hard to sleep on.
That is cool. How big are they?
These are just kind of like mostly like Google images, so just kind of style if that's a direction. So just to show like we, you know, there's multiple options.
That bench is nice, it's similar, but how wide is the one at the top left?
That it can be probably any width.
So
Blank.
what I liked about some of the ones that didn't have the backs is it allows you to see people on both sides.
Mhm.
Versus, you know, just having one spot.
That's a
where
good
somebody's
point.
Going to
Yeah.
need to sit.
Okay, and so then shifting over to the dining and the seating for dining, like we talked about before. On if we wanted to, instead of having just sidewalk dining like we have on Main Street where it's, if businesses have their own furniture. The more and more I'm looking at it, I think having just kind of a uniform furniture outside of the benches, like for that people sit at and eat at, might be a direction to go. And so that's kind of the second half of this talk would be, if we, and this probably could even be a sooner thing, because some of that furniture could be probably fairly quickly bought if we wanted to have something like that, still to talk about. But like for like underground and mini batch, like where y'all are, you don't necessarily need a sidewalk dining permit because you're not like serving people food out there. But you might change that at some point, that's fine. But then if
So
it's,
if they don't serve, they don't need the permit.
no, because it'd be the same as somebody just sitting on a table or anything before, because people would just take the food or coffee and go out and sit and eat or drink it. And so having somewhat fixed furniture, because there's just, after we did that walkthrough, there's just not a lot of room for
Really.
furniture that can move around, without having like issues with getting into the road or getting to the right of way for seating. I did, because we're doing the sidewalk dining renewals, and so I mentioned it to Carly at Claywood, and at first she was a little hesitant on it because she thought I was saying that she had to get rid of her furniture, which I wasn't saying that. I said maybe this might be in a year or two time period where the furniture you have probably is gonna be beat up a little by that point anyway, and so she was more open at that point of fixed furniture. And Stacy at Mini Batch was open to that too, because she had said she just has her furniture out there right now because there's just not places for people to sit currently, so she'd be fine with.
Yeah, we looked, were you on that walk when we walked around? Yeah, so, because we looked at all places that had kitchens or kitchens.
Yeah.
Well, and
The
just
potential.
where the possibility on the sidewalks were
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
Room and.
add that.
yeah, and then people wouldn't have to pack it up and cable it up at the night. It's just
Yeah,
there. It's
we were tripping over Carly's as we were there.
Yeah.
And it was extended past the space it should be.
So there's, I mean, when we did our walkthrough, I think it is really important that we identified buildings that either had existing kitchens and that basically preserving or at least mentally set aside that space in front of that storefront as outdoor dining, because there's a lot of value in outdoor dining for the operator, also for the owner of the building as well, especially if you're talking about food and drink. I think that for me, there seems to be a couple of points where there could be permanent city provided furniture. That would be kind of a congregation point. As far as directly in front of the businesses that would either have an outdoor dining permit or be looking to get one, having like permanent furniture, I think individuals using that furniture is going to be an issue. Maybe not necessarily directly in front of the business. Let's say there was permanent furniture right in front of Claywood. I don't think individuals would be camping out on that furniture. But what I've already seen is for Stacy's furniture is basically out all the time.
Yeah.
And people are utilizing it. Okay, not a lot, but there's a few. And so the more furniture I think you have that's out all the time, that isn't roped off, there's not signs up and all that stuff, individuals are gonna use it as a place to post up. They're not getting drunk, they're not sleeping, they've got their stuff and they're on their phones or they're doing whatever. So I think that should be a consideration at least. What I would propose really is like what Nancy said, I would propose getting a consensus on the style of bench and popping in 4 or 5 benches in the places that we already targeted, getting some bench seating out there. And then obviously we have to deal with all these components, but as far as getting that, those locations dialed in, I think we could probably do that, like 4 or 5 benches. We can agree on a bench style, I just like the simplicity of that design of a bench. I don't have pictures, but I've been told by numerous people that, back in the day, 7th Avenue was benches up and down the street. And folks would post up on benches and that's what they would do. But having tables and chairs out there, permanent, like 24/7, I think that might be a concern as far as individuals utilizing that furniture that's out there all the time. Like a table and a chair, a place to land your backpack and all that stuff. So
Yes.
that's just been my observation. So
Can I comment for a second?
sure,
It's Lyle. So Jamie, it's all right if I speak?
Huh?
Can I speak?
Yeah.
It's your meeting. I need your permission.
Okay.
Oh,
Sure.
okay. Matthew, you said exactly what I was thinking. I was raising my hand, but you covered it. My biggest concern is the permanent installation of tables in front of spaces that are currently restaurant spaces, or if spaces turn over into another use, not being restricted to be able to have tables, not have tables, the amount of tables that somebody would be able to have on their own being smaller in a different configuration. So as far as our properties are concerned, the ones we own today, the ones we may own in the future, I would not like to see anything permanent that restricts anybody from having a different use or the ability to do cafe type seating with their own furniture in front of the spaces. I'm all for benches, but I think that the benches have to be placed in common areas that will never obstruct anybody's frontage and will be, and again, I wasn't part of you guys walking through the neighborhood and knowing that these spaces even exist. But I'm so opposed to having them in front of our properties, restricting any use today or change of use later. So,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but currently with how the furniture that the businesses have there, it's not, there's not a good layout for their furniture, how they currently have it. And then it gets moved around. And so
So-
there's gonna have to be some more restrictions
So-
on what their
so, yeah.
individual furniture is.
so Jamie, we have several spaces on Lincoln Road Mall, which is, almost a mile long mall with major retailers and businesses. It's like La Ramblas in Spain, or just a high traffic area where tourists are walking up and down the street. And we probably have 40 to 50 restaurants. And I've been in this neighborhood for the last 30 years, watching the evolution of outdoor seating. And it started off just like we're starting off here, just a space and allowing a tenant or somebody to put the chairs wherever they want. And then it evolves where it's blocking people. There's nothing really laid out, rules and regulations. So I would say that we should start right away coming up, and it can evolve with a permit package, with guidelines.
We have that for Main Street.
We need it.
And how it is currently set up for Main Street's just not applicable for the layout for 7th. And so
Right.
we've had, but it's going to be, whenever we have to finalize it, which will have to be in this committee, it's gonna significantly reduce what's currently out there, because there's the state of like what Stacy has and what Carly has, because the space and what is allowable with like liability, because there was already somebody who tripped over the furniture over at Mini Batch. And so there's
Well, that's part
gonna
of
be-
it. So those are the little details. So there's an insurance policy that has to have a certain limit with the city named as additional insured. There's a walkway path that's specific. Each property owner has to approve of the tenant based on the property line, that they can't go past the property line. It can't go any further out on the sidewalk. There's very distinctive and specific regulations
yeah.
that, and I think it should be defined. And if you can only get 10 seats, if you're telling me that now everybody's got seats and they're getting away with more seats today than what they're going to possibly get away in the future if the regulation comes in play, I think we need to either look at it as just turn our eye right now and build the neighborhood and get everybody coming there, and then start enforcing something later, or just do what we have to do now, and it is what it is.
Yeah,
But,
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it seems
Okay.
like the best thing is, as we said, put some benches or
Yeah,
put some benches out, and then the city sets up what the rules are. Like, we're supposed to have everybody, and then gradually we're doing it on Main Street, that how much space they have. If they're gonna put outdoor seating, and they can't put it where it would make the city have to be liable or whatever the rules are. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely that's a thing to do, but.
So it's really-
So that saves you on spending money on dining.
yeah, but that's what we want
and
to.
then
mean,
you
it's
can
really-
focus on
It's
benches.
really important to address both Lyle and everybody else in the room, is that the outdoor dining, the outdoor seating that we have right now would not fall under an outdoor dining permit.
Right, but we need to have a.
So that's part of it, so we can just kind of take that off.
Would you say it doesn't fall, say that again, Matthew?
So the outdoor seating that Claywood and Mini Bash are, the way they have their seating right now, that would not be appropriate, that would not
Be
follow.
violating.
Yeah, it would be a violation, basically, it would be a violation of the outdoor
Right.
dining, the existing outdoor dining format that we have for Main Street.
And we've met with all of them individually and just kind of had said, like, we got their insurance and all that, but we just are kind of telling them, this is what you can do right now, and then it's
Right.
probably gonna have to change later, because of how the parking is and the layout for it, it's gonna be pretty limited in what they can do. So
Yeah.
I think that's if that's what we decide is a consensus of what we want to do, then as far as this furniture goes, the next step is then this committee is going to need to be looking at the ordinance.
Yeah, that would,
How, Jamie, how much limited, like drastically? Cause there's not a lot of seating, like Claywood only has like 3 or 4 tables. Are you saying
don't
they're
think
only
we're
gonna be able to have
ready to
one
even-
table?
I think that that's going to be the next thing that this committee is going to have to look at. So I don't think we're at a point where we can even talk about it right now.
Gotcha. But everybody's pro
mean-
seating.
Okay, wait. a
Everybody
minute.
wants
This
this.
has started.
So you guys, one of the reasons we had talked about doing the defined seating was because then we can stretch it a little bit more up and down the street and there's
Not necessarily in
areas,
front.
there's areas that would accommodate. And we were talking about maybe a little bit more of a uniformity because it's such a small area. So, you know, it's a trade-off, you know, do you just get the seating in front of those particular buildings and is it their own? Or do we scatter some seating up and down the street where people have the ability to grab and go and sit where they would like up and down the street? So, you know,
Well,
that's the biggest question.
I still, and that's a good question, but I still think we start with benches.
I think that's
Work
fine.
on an ordinance.
I think that, yeah, I don't think. we need to go-
100% benches.
Yeah, I don't-
100% in the right spots.
so,
I think.
and we've already identified as far as our primary choices for bench locations, these would not interfere with outdoor dining permits or businesses that would, so these are not blocking any of that. I say we agree on the style of the bench and we mark the locations.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And then, so then the next thing this committee will need to be doing is the sidewalk dining. And then that can determine the
You can
layout.
do that you can put that 2 years from now on the agenda.
Do what?
Yeah, let's-
It needs to happen soon because somebody like broke their fingers because they tripped over furniture. So it just needs to happen like now.
Yeah.
The big thing on the outdoor dining that stands out immediately is that, you know, you have basically the width of your facade to utilize as an outdoor dining
Right.
area. So like what Mini Batch is doing, that wouldn't be her outdoor dining because it's not in front of her storefront.
Unless the property owner next door gives her permission.
No.
Yeah, it allows
Yes.
for 8 feet of permission in the main, but currently the ordinance is for Main Street.
We
Right.
have
There is no ordinance for Seventh Avenue now, so I don't think we need to get into that for today. I think we just need to go talk about the benches and move on from there.
We have a new
Socks.
restaurant that's gonna be opening soon, so they're gonna be asking.
So
They have a lot. of
let's do this. Let's go ahead and, if I can make a motion to add that to the agenda for our next meeting, that we are to at least start the conversation on my outdoor dining and look at the existing outdoor dining
An
schedule
ordinance.
that's for Main Street and start going on that. I would make a motion that we add that to the agenda on our next meeting.
I'll second that.
And that included discussing an ordinance, is that what you said?
Right. That's dining
Looking at the existing Main Street and using that as a platform and developing one that's specific.
Send out the existing one.
Yep,
Mhm.
okay. So we've talked, so that was so one of our decision points on dining, done. We've created that, we've ended that decision point. Okay, so benches. That's our next decision point.
So my opinion is this, you know, I like the simplicity of that style. I think it looks like we have the money for 5 of them, maybe. You're using about 30,000.
For this?
30,000 for that, for the cheap, yeah. So it'd be 25,
If we
Let's change it to
have
8.
friends,
right?
so that would need to be just an approval.
Right, so we have, if we wanted to go with that style and we have it there for 8, there's a price break.
I thought we were
And I don't think we could probably, I think we might want to start with 1 or 2 and then.
Right.
Or even get 1, because 1 is easier to relocate or do something else if we decide it doesn't work for us than 8.
Yeah,
And
I thought we were talking about limiting that space.
Like how wide are they? I can't tell.
There,
So
how
are they-
wide
are
and
they-
how long?
are they-
I mean, that's a.
60 inches.
Yeah,
It's a great sleeping spot.
It's 5 to 7.
Well, that's why we started talking about the other tables. So it's either we're doing benches or we're not doing benches and so.
Yeah, but we don't have to do a bench that looks like that. We need something that's more uncomfortable to lay on. I mean,
People sleep sitting up.
like, that looks perfect for me to sit there and lay there and sleep all day.
And you need a nap.
And there's no loitering, there's no loitering,
From Hunter's
regulations.
Looked like it was more of a love seat size.
Yeah, I thought,
Those were like $7,000. Cause those were the ones that had the point at the
Well, I
top,
know,
yeah.
but what if you didn't add the point, because when we looked at the original pictures, you have the option to come up.
Yeah, it's
real.
So it's either,
Options, but that,
so they're a variety of lengths because a different part of the circle.
Okay.
5 to 6 feet is plenty of nap space.
That's gonna be any bench that we get
Unless we have the railings, the hands.
Well, unless we do something
yeah.
more squiggly, that's just not uncomfortable, so you can do a longer length, but it
Yeah.
doesn't create.
Guys, I gotta tell you-
Jamie, did somebody say there's a no loitering? You're not allowed to enforce.
no, we have no.
It's a public street and a public sidewalk. People have the right to sit there.
And sleep and be there at any hour of the night sitting in that chair?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think
So-
one other
Keep-
fact we have to consider is maintenance. That one on the top
I-
there, maintenance is gonna be minimal.
Yeah.
Guys, I think we're
Always
gonna
have a
set
lot of dirty
ourselves up.
places.
We're setting ourselves up for disaster. As much as we want benches, I'm gonna regret those benches. I don't want them anywhere near my properties. This is you got the people across the street that are people are gonna be sleeping, sitting
Yeah.
up in those benches, and we're gonna destroy the neighborhood. And I think once you start doing benches and then you have to take them out, you're gonna be getting, all kinds of people making comments, and you're gonna get organizations after you. I think we're going down a path that is
What-
not gonna be helpful.
Benches, we don't want tables and chairs. What do we?
Benches.
Okay.
Oh, I thought sticking with that. It's just the right bench.
What about, the one thing that you don't get people sleeping in, I don't think, are those heavy and maybe a smaller version like a 2-seater with the heavy chairs and the heavy little tables. At least people could sit, but
Or one of those little cubes that 2 people can sit back to back, or a cube, those square blocks, and you just can stop and sit on it and go, and they're not for long-term seating. And it's somewhere just to sit and check your email, your text, talk to somebody and get up and go. No place
That's
to,
more like where that concrete bench is, the number 3, but a shortened version of that. would be
Correct,
cute,
correct.
right?
correct, half of that, correct.
I don't know.
One of the things when I was reading about some of the benches, when you don't have the sides, it does provide somebody who might be in a wheelchair situation to be able to kind of pull up next to.
And that's
So that
important.
is kind of a nice feature.
Having a cube or a piece of
Well,
concrete.
either.
So we can't.
It sounds like a graffiti place.
An ordinance that limits people to being out there for 2 hours.
No, it's public space.
So if you got concrete,
Could you put art on it all around the sides? Cause just as an example,
Break and crack, we don't
Yeah.
want to do concrete.
and plus it's a graffiti site, so.
I think Matthew has something.
All right, so I never disagree with Lyle. You guys know that. As far as, I think a couple benches of a minimalist style design like that doesn't have a back on it. There's not tables and chairs for people to really post up their belongings. These are relatively small. As far as individuals, been down there for 15 years. I've never seen an individual trying to sleep. When we put furniture out, we actually had benches years ago. Most of the traffic that we see now on 7th Avenue, the homeless traffic, if you will, they're just in transition. They're not posting up really. I mean, a little bit, but what we see people posting up at is when they have tables and chairs that are obviously out all the time, that don't have ropes around them, they don't have signs out, they don't have somebody coming out saying, hey, you can't sit here. So that's city property. And that's the way it works with the city, that there is, unless you're on private property, we can't stop an individual from sitting on city property unless they're creating a disturbance.
Well, and we
But-
want it to be welcoming. So.
Sure, and I think, we're not, I mean, we're talking about maybe just a couple to start with. I think, just to have something out there that, it's also like the proximity to the street. I mean, it's pretty tight. It's pretty cozy on Seventh Avenue right now. And from what I've seen over the years from a loitering standpoint is that loitering tends to happen in less cozy, like places that are a little bit, in the shadows a little bit, not right out in front. You know what I mean? A lot of these people don't want attention, so.
Wanna be
And look,
back there.
it's on Main Street. I drive up and down Main Street and I see it.
Yeah,
Linda,
I
look
know.
what I just sent you and share that if that works. That's what I was trying to describe. I think that's the happy compromise.
I don't know, concrete.
If you did something, yeah,
That looks like
stone
stone.
wiring, because it's.
But something like that.
It doesn't look good as well, but it looks so darkish,
Yes.
but
Not that
which is
far off
gonna
of
be
that.
worse.
So,
Gonna create this, it's gonna be the same, like, a place for people to sit is gonna be a place where people are gonna sit.
and I
Yeah,
will-
they'll sit, but they won't sit, they won't sleep there overnight.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
People are gonna,
they're gonna, if they find a spot, they're gonna find a spot. And just like Matthew said, I've been doing the farmer's market for about 3 years. I get out there about 5 a.m. And I don't, we're right across from the Mission at the depot. And even then, the people that you're seeing are hiding around like the bushes and they're not
There you
out
go.
and
in.
then we got.
Yeah.
Early on, Main Street.
Well, and that is Main Street, but what my experience was with Seventh is like, they do kind of shuffle out of the way once the day starts going because people start coming down to Seventh and they, like Matthew said, don't really want to be in the public.
It gets
Yeah.
pretty warm.
I have people sleeping in the alcove next to Claywood. I have cameras there and I have people living in that space. And when the sun comes up, they leave. So right across from Art on 7th, next to Claywood, there are people camping out. So,
I
and
don't know
we've
what
had
that
it,
has to do with benches
I know, it
on the
wouldn't
street.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
but what about where you have a configuration now? I mean, they do it in Florida, they do it at the beaches where that's cycled plastics and they have 2 seats and a bench built in together. I mean, I'm just trying to think of a way that people could sit that won't have people sleeping, but would have them where they could put their coffee while they're sitting. I
Yeah,
don't know, they're not real expensive. I know that the actual plastic ones could be lifted and wouldn't taken away by people, but something where it's a combination of 2 seats with a built-in table next to it, maybe out of the heavy metal.
I don't understand why a business that's serving food can't provide seating. And when
Oh.
people are there, it's not like you're sitting watching the ocean in a chair. that the
I'm
se- yeah.
not, yeah, Lyle, I
No, but-
wasn't talking about it to replace.
No, but I'm just saying this
So-
whole, everybody wants benches. It's not like you have a
I'm
mountain
not saying
view.
benches. I
No,
said
no, I'm
2
not, I'm not.
chairs.
No, I'm just saying in general, just globally, this
Oh.
bench thing and providing the seating is really, it's a wonderful idea. It's great on Main Street, but I'm telling you, it's going to kill and create a problem that we don't want to have to deal with. And being that I am a major stakeholder there, I am making a further commitment to go even further at buying other buildings. And, it's really scaring me of what potentially this is going to look like with the neighbors that we have in that neighborhood that are there after hours. And it's going to really put a bad spin on the neighborhood as other neighborhoods have gotten the same bad PR. We've put so much
Lyle, is
energy.
that No benches now then?
well,
I-
that, just clear,
I'm
Lyle
all
is
for-
not.
It's not-
Okay, whatever. Okay, go ahead. I'm not on the committee. Go ahead.
But I
Matthew,
mean,
speak.
it's-
You're
Matthew,
being
speak for me.
supportive, but we need to come to the consensus and either we decide and move forward.
You guys are picking the style of the furniture right now, not even the
No.
concept of do we,
We're listening to your feedback. We just need to like either decide on what we're doing as the committee with feedback valid, sure. And if we want to have this conversation and decide on what the next step is now, or we can decide for what we want to push down for the next.
Can I make a suggestion? I know, we have some interest in certain benches. We're talking about coming up with what the ordinance should be on dining furniture. why don't we hold off on benches? I mean, we don't have to do them right now, do we?
No,
And then-
there's work differences in what the opinion is.
So let's do.
Wait, I,
Go ahead.
if we research and do an ordinance for Seventh Avenue, then we will have a better understanding where we might put just two benches and it might be that particular style, but it almost, it sounds like if we put the benches out first.
I mean, we still, yeah, that's a great picture, Jamie. We still identified, and there's not that many places.
Yeah.
For
that
the
we-
record, the bench is beautiful that you picked.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I disagree with Lyle in terms of why do we need benches? Cause I've gone out with my elderly mother plenty of times and it's a half block and she needs to sit down. And granted, that's not the entire population, but we need to consider that. We want the area to be appealing. I think we need benches. Do I think that they need to be long enough to be a bed? No. I think a two-seater length is plenty big for people.
I totally agree. Totally.
Yeah,
That's reasonable.
I agree with you,
Benches,
Linda, for the need.
smallest one was 5 foot, right?
Let's let Linda finish what she was.
Yes, so possibly a two-seater length with, again, open area, open sides. So if somebody has a wheelchair, they can pull up next to it, but that we're looking like we are a space that wants to accommodate people. We want people to come, walk the street, hang out, do what they're gonna do. I mean, I've been on that street for a long, long time.
So
And you
the-
ask people nicely to move along and they
So that one picture you had of the bench with no sides, that was like a metal one coated in, like that one right there. Can't you get those like 48 inches or something? Or
We can get them at any size and those will be,
What's the shortest side?
it'll be any size we could want in something like that.
Aren't those easy to move though?
We can get them 2 foot, sorry.
They would be,
that's really.
so ones on Main Street can be moved. And those will be lighter because they won't have a back on them. So they could.
That's what I want to know.
Down.
Yeah, and they could take
So-
those 48 inches and make a bed.
So now we're back to design. And for me, that design doesn't say anything unique.
No, it
says very,
We need
I
something.
think we could do
Makes a
better.
statement.
But it solves the problem. Just for if you had to have a bench, it should be something like that. So, I'm not on the committee, you guys are, but that's just my input.
Well, I was just representing the other style and the more like with the, reclaimed materials and having a more modern kind of a higher end finish to that versus just your typical, very straightforward metal bench.
Yes, I guess that's kind of the main kind of sticking point that we kind of need to have that discussion then. Are we wanting to have it towards the style and the direction of the district? Are we wanting to have it towards places people can sit and not sleep? And that can kind of help us decide.
So that's a combination of, you're talking about for Seventh Avenue.
Yeah.
And a place where people could sit.
I mean, it's just we just need to, I'm just trying to figure out how to get us to either making some type of decision of yes or no, or what we're going to move forward with
I mean,
or not move forward.
I think Lyle's input here is very, very, very important.
Yeah.
Because it creates a conversation, although we, whether we agree or disagree, it's at least creating the conversation. There is going to be public furniture on Seventh Avenue at some point. Every city I've ever been to, every downtown, every Main Street district has some public furniture for people to sit. So
It's needed.
I mean, we're gonna have to have something at some point, and the issue was, in other individuals taking, using that or creating a negative effect, with that. If, in our experience, if somebody's laying down, if they're sleeping, we typically make a phone call and they get checked out from a medical standpoint. That's been our experience on Seventh Avenue. We find anybody on the ground or lying down or posted up somewhere, there's usually another issue going on and police will deal with that. Whether they need medical attention or they're,
You call on Main Street, tell them they're laying there in their backpack, they've been there for 3 hours, they won't even come.
Well, that's not my.
I know, I'm like, what are you talking
That's not my experience. I mean,
about?
but I mean, I think there's a lot of conversation here and I want to kind of, this could very well easily be a 2-hour meeting and I don't know if we're really gonna make any decisions today. I do think that the outdoor dining thing is probably gonna help steer a lot of this. And if we
The
can look-
ordinance, you mean?
if we look at outdoor dining and, we are paying attention to individuals, owners and operators that put a sizable investment in having a food and beverage business especially, and the value for them for having an efficient outdoor dining area. So I'm not saying we table benches and chairs, but I think, we've already added to next month's or next meeting's agenda to look at outdoor dining, look at the existing, and then kind of see how that fleshes out. But, I would not be opposed at this point to having a shorter style of bench, something that wouldn't be appropriate, but just enough for 2 people to put your butt down for a minute, and as far as, having an issue with loitering on that property, I mean, like I said, I don't, I can't think of one area where there isn't some type of city seating and that, and every town deals with this and we will, and I think I really appreciate your comments, Lyle, 100%. And, but I think we've got a lot to unpack here, but this committee needs to be on the same page.
Can I say one last thing?
Sure.
I'm 100% on board with seating. I'm trying to avoid what I described and what we're all afraid of. And I think being that if you come up with a seat that is really uncomfortable or it's physically not possible for somebody for 8 hours to be in the sitting position without having something to lean on, that will work. Seating is really, really important. And I hope that I didn't slow the process down by giving you my feelings and don't do it on my behalf, not moving forward with these seats that are really needed, but just pick the right one to accomplish what we're trying to do. That's all I want to say.
And again, y'all, if we do something that's like one of those conversation seatings, and no, it's a teeny tiny picture at the bottom, but that's kind of contemporary and funky, the wiggly seat on the right.
There
You know,
was
something like that,
artsy choices out there like that. Where's
For
that one,
two-seater.
where's that one little table, Jamie, too, that I sent?
But I don't want uncomfortable seats for my bottom.
No, it's just, nobody's gonna sit
Yeah.
there for all day. They're gonna
Yeah.
sit for a cup of
You
coffee.
guys can see even with like these tables, similar type of thing where it's just not where you're gonna hang out for a long like.
'Cause they're skinny
Because
and-
they're
yeah.
circular, they're skinny,
But you can't,
but
they're easy to lift away
Yeah.
and steal.
I mean, as far as space goes, if we're gonna have the businesses have their own sidewalk
Yeah.
permits, I don't think that doing tables with seating would be.
Well, and I'm not necessarily saying that for this, I'm just saying statewide,
Sure,
you
yeah.
can see how those are not, those type of shapes are not something that someone's gonna want to sit at.
And it's kind of neat if you took away the 2 stools and lowered that down, that would be a narrow seat that nobody would sleep on. But then once again, I look at that materials, and I think we're gonna be replacing it within.
Well, yeah.
So
We have the idea. We
Yeah.
just need the
So
right
it
product.
sounds like everybody is on with the benches. It just needs to be a smaller version. We want it to be unique, different than Main Street.
Yeah.
So we just need some more ideas.
It has to make a statement.
Yeah,
And-
and it needs to be, to your point, for the city, it needs to be something that can. be
Low maintenance.
Easily maintained.
Yeah, like if we wanted to do something like this, I could probably buy 3 or 4 of them tomorrow. That's not gonna have any kind of,
You could do a different
Style.
color too.
if that's a direction that we want to go, but that would be like, those would be probably like
You can't blow that up.
$1,000. They could probably put a logo on the butt that'll cost not much more. I mean, if the ones on Main Street to replace, I think they're $1,200 or $1,500, so these would be less than that, if that's what we wanted to have.
Well, again, I'm on the record saying I do not like that. It doesn't do anything for me. I think that we are, 7th Avenue it's fantastic. It's gone through a lot. I'm talking about, the entire history of Seventh Avenue has gone through a lot. But especially now with the finish and the look and the feel of Seventh Avenue, I think deserves something a little bit.
What's the one on the right where the guy's sitting? The pink shirt, that looks like,
I think it's just a bench like this that has a post in the middle of it.
oh, it looks, I think it's a
It's
bench
not-
like that,
I
chick.
think it's got little handholds.
Yeah,
I just think it's backless. I think it's like.
yeah, but like the one in the middle.
So I guess I'm confused on, like, if we want one without a back. This one, this is what we looked at before, doesn't.
But it's 5 feet
The
long.
problem is it's just too big.
Okay,
It's like a bed,
If they make them
We-
smaller,
we love
that
it.
might work.
but
yeah, okay.
They only make, that this only comes in one length.
It said 5 to 6 feet in that.
Yeah, because they're made from those wind turbines, so it depends on what,
The shortest would be 5 feet long,
yeah,
which
yeah, and I had asked them about that, that's
we
about.
don't like.
And so what's a length that we would like then?
What's the standard for two butts?
Probably 5 feet.
No.
5 feet, yeah, if you're sitting,
Sitting together and that's not 5 foot,
This is,
maybe 4.
No, that's,
This is
this is a 4 foot, this is a 4 foot too.
Okay,
oh, it's almost,
so 4 foot.
4 to 5 feet. Yeah. I mean,
5 feet.
5
would
is
be
too
over
much.
here.
somebody wants to lay on a bench, they're gonna lay on a 5 foot bench, like, if somebody wants to lay on a 5 foot bench, they're gonna lay on a 4 foot bench. I don't think a foot of a width is gonna make that. It's pretty little bit of house, yes.
the style of this, the reason why I like this bench is that the style is it's very minimalistic. It's sustainable, recycled materials. It has from a sustainability standpoint, it has a very long shelf life. So, bigger picture. And those are kind of like, I think, some principles about downtown Hendersonville and Seventh Avenue that we were already projecting, with the fact that we want to be a more progressive, sustainable, green community, all that good stuff.
That will blend in very nicely down there.
It's low profile, and that's what I like about it. And it's not, we've talked about this from the beginning about not having seating that was overly comfy, which means basically the first thing is not having a back. If you don't have a back, people aren't gonna hang out. I have back pain. I look for seats that have backs and something to put my feet up on, you know what I mean? And I think, so, that's the first component of that design is that it's not, it's more of to me, it's a little bit more like a seating type of sculpture kind of thing, where it's just like, it's there, it's low profile. But you're also, these are gonna be placed relatively close to the street. The street's pretty narrow, traffic. It's like, I guess my argument about individuals camping on these benches, I don't really see that necessarily happening because if you look at really the scope of the street, if they were back, if they were pushed back, if they were in corners and stuff like that, if they were on the plaza underneath some trees, forget about it. People would use that all day long.
We know, Matthew, that that this one is one you're very excited about. You mentioned, Jamie, getting one, because they're almost $4,000 a piece. Getting
Well, with
one, if
shipping
you
and all,
got
it will
one,
be.
if you got one,
And there won't be a price break until we get more, like, we're not gonna be at the point of buying enough for a price break anyway.
but if you got one, you could, and it didn't work, it probably can work very nicely, but if you just got one, we could pick a spot and see, or is that one of the ideas you had, Jamie, was getting just one to see how it works or what?
I think that probably, it'd probably be good in general, especially for something that's more expensive, we would need to start with one. For something that's like the cheaper ones, we could get several of them. So I think that's a good route to recommend if either.
It's $4,000 of benches.
I would like to see one on each side of the street, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's $8,000 for 2 benches. That's the problem.
But they'll last a long
I
time.
know, but the city has a lot of benches on Main Street.
I don't
know Main Street people saying, what? You spent $4,000 on one bench?
I don't wanna buy, I don't wanna buy 2 if we're gonna turn around and say we don't like either of them. It's a lot easier if we buy one to turn around and
What would you do with it if it didn't work?
probably put it over to where the,
Train station.
Where the fountain is.
Like it would go somewhere, there would be somewhere to put one that we could do. It could go to the art league because they've got a mural on it.
Yeah, there we go.
So there can be options for that. Because then we'll have the downtown board kind of determine. If they're cool with it or whatever, but I think like.
It seems to me like if that's from this meeting right now, if we can come up with at least a strategy going forward, like next steps. Obviously, I don't think we're gonna make any hard decisions today, but and
Well, is that?
if we need to look at other examples, I mean, this was the first one that you pulled up and I saw it and I'm like, yeah, done deal, go. But if we need other examples of benches to look at, then maybe we should get some more examples to look at, and from a cost standpoint,
Set up a subcommittee, maybe to bring some bench, additional bench.
Well, we're pretty
designs
much a
back
subcommittee,
to
so
this.
we can, you can bring.
A subcommittee of.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Just look it up and send it.
Yeah.
Going back to what, at the beginning of the meeting. And it's just, everyone's got opinions and conflicting, I'm just trying to make sure that we're. Going back, circling it back around to, and Nancy and Matthew had made points of, we did all this street. And put this work into it, and now there's still not, places for people to sit and enjoy, like we've got farmer's market going on. There's not places for people to sit except for like mini batches furniture there. And so. I'm okay with whatever if we decide we're not ready for it or not, but the longer it's kicked to the curb, the longer it's gonna be till there's anything out there, which if that's what we want to do, that's fine. I just want to because this is 2 months into talking about furniture at this point, so.
2 meetings, not 2 months. I mean, 2 meetings and a walk, so yeah, 3 meetings, yes.
Yeah. And so, we pushed it off to now because we wanted to kind of walk through and do the layout and everything, and so. Either we plan, in the next month or two of either. Getting a test or a prototype or something, or some type of. Plan other than, like, just having a meeting where we're going back and forth on the debate for it, even if it's just fine of one something. To then, like, at least get us.
Well, you only have 3 spots for high priority benches.
Mhm.
There's 4. 3 greens.
There's 3 up here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4.
And there's those, so there's a lot down on one part of Main Street and 7, sorry. And 1 way up at the top. I mean, I don't know. If we wanted to spread 4 out, I don't have a problem. I'm okay with us trying one of the ones that came in, but they are real expensive.
I'm not like with getting one of them, I feel like can be pretty easily done from the Friends to get a prototype for it to decide. One of any of them can be more or less done with the Friends, a purchase if we want to do that.
So these benches would not be bolted into the ground. They're just really heavy.
Yeah, they're really heavy.
So it could be moved.
Yeah, any of them, we wouldn't want to bolt any of them at this, like, even on Main Street, the benches, none of the furniture is bolted down on Main Street. That might be something for 7th that we might want to do, but we wouldn't want to do that till we are ready.
I mean, we could talk for hours, obviously, about bench designs and colors and prices and all that stuff, and we've already done a lot of that. We've already put enough, not enough, but a good amount of time into talking about this, and we were definitely, there definitely was a consensus. Lyle's comments, appreciated, but that wasn't the consensus of this group. I didn't hear anything from this group about, we did have some concerns about loitering, how people would utilize the seating.
We talked
We
about
talked
that.
about that at length, about having seating that wasn't conducive to that type of activity. But that 7th Avenue with the street being done and finished, it deserves some type of, it definitely deserves some type of seating available for the public and, the issue of who's gonna use that seating and what is it for? Is it gonna be abused? Is it gonna be an issue? I think for me as an operator, having like permanent furniture out in front of my business, that would be an issue for me. That would be another thing on my plate to have to go out there and let people know, hey, you can't be here kind of thing. So that would be, that I would not be necessarily in favor of that being directly in front of my business, because that now becomes my responsibility with asking people to move along unless, and then you got signs up or what have you. I mean, so I think, I think if we could get a consensus on a bench style. See, the thing about this bench style here is that if we get one, that's great, but we want to agree on it now because we're going to want to get more at some point. And, we don't want to have a different bench style. And we don't want to.
If we had a different bench style, it'd have to be, I would think we'd want to move it to somewhere else, which is
Right.
fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
We would want to feel like, if we get one, we do want to be relatively,
That's nice.
75% ready to buy more eventually. With that 25% of, if we don't like it, we can move it. Cause it's, not a small amount of money, no matter what we get.
Well, that's she just came up with a real contemporary bench with no backs to it. Is it metal? I don't know, you could show a picture just as.
It's stainless steel, actually. And it's $200 on this site, but I don't know if you guys can see it, it's just. So I just put in city, street, contemporary bench. I just think there's a lot more choices out there than what we're currently looking at.
I mean, this is nice too, because then they won't be comfortable.
And
You can do it in whatever color, and it's
guys hear us.
only that color.
So I think we're all in agreement, we want benches. It's just we're having the disagreement on stuff.
Yeah.
So.
so so we can move forward here. Why don't we just put that on, you want to put that on as homework? I mean, we all have phones. We all know Google,
Can we,
maybe come up with some different ideas.
can we go through some of this or just emails?
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do that.
and plus, it's like 3 members of the committee anyway.
Yeah.
It would be good if they had some input.
So let's do that. Let's do a little homework and just start looking at images of different designs. Maybe something that kind of follows that design, but maybe not as much money. I mean,
Could
You
we
know-
send them all to Jamie so we don't have so many emails and maybe you can
Yeah,
consolidate?
that's fine. We're not gonna have an August meeting.
I
Yeah,
know, so can we make a decision over it?
Yeah, because we'll have an August board meeting. We'll have.
especially if we're talking about buying one bench.
Yes.
well,
Let's say we buy one bench and we put it by the crosswalk, which that was one of the ideas.
yeah, put it by,
You
Garth
put,
and.
you put it by, we put it by the crosswalk, it's right there, individually utilizing the crosswalk are gonna sit, and maybe people won't sit at all. But, I'm also, of this team, I'm the one that's down there 24/7, so I'll keep a really close eye on it'll be our test bench, if you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and I can give you I can give you a very, a good snapshot of how people are utilizing that one bench that we put out. I think that's a really smart idea. So if we can just agree on a design that's
Yeah.
with keeping in mind that we need to agree on this design because we're going to duplicate it.
Right.
So whatever it is, let's take our time and make the right decision. You guys know what I like, but that's the whole point of a team is that we need to come to a consensus. But for me, it's not about spending a bunch of money. It's about utilizing something, the materials, I think having recycled, repurposed materials, sustainable materials, having something that will not end up in a landfill in 5 years. I think that aligns with the direction that we're going at. It's part of it for me.
And
No.
I will
And
say,
talk about people resend the bench, I like walk by and go, you know what that is? That's a wind turbine.
When?
That's cool. That's a conversation starter. It's really simple,
$1,000 conversation starter. It might be the one. It might be the one.
and I will say that we are not gonna want to buy a $200 bench.
No,
No,
we're not.
Like
Off
it-
Amazon.
it's gonna have.
No,
to-
it's
Or-
the idea.
Yeah,
That's right.
so think about style, and then like if you find something that is a commercial grade,
Can you send us a couple of sites where we could look at?
they're all on this that I sent
It has the actual email site?
It's got links to
Okay,
several of them.
and that was,
These are all ones that Linda has sent me, except for this.
And
one.
there's so many more out there though, so.
But I think ultimately just deciding on style, because then can determine if there's a commercial grade option for it, because no matter what, we're going to want to spend
We're gonna spend
about $1,000 per bench, because otherwise we're gonna be buying 5 $200 benches.
it's not really that. I think we realize that's.
Yeah, and but
Can
that's.
you resend those sites? Just, you don't have to send the whole package,
Well,
just those.
She's got the package up.
Yeah, that's what I sent yesterday
Oh, just.
Yeah.
and last week.
It's an email.
Jamie, do you want to put a deadline for us to get you our design ideas?
I guess that just depends on when we want to decide,
Well, I mean, if the,
or when y'all want to.
if you don't say it's gotta be to Jamie by a certain date.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we do?
It's gonna.
Cause I mean, I can. You know, it all kind of depends on how
This,
quickly or slowly y'all want to move. ahead.
yeah, I mean,
Well, tell us the date.
2 weeks.
Y'all tell me
Okay.
when y'all want to have.
So 2 weeks from today, July 15th. Okay,
There
so-
will be a downtown advisory board meeting in August. It's just not our committee.
Right, so by July 15th, Jamie has any recommendations and then,
She'll send it out.
she'll send it out and then via email, we can approve that one bench. So we're looking at,
Everybody's gotta get their opinions over to Jamie before the 15th. You need some time to put it together. You're saying Jamie's gonna send it out by July 15th?
No, we have to
no,
get
we
it
just send
done.
her what our homework is, what designs that we like, and then you'll look at it. I mean, ultimately, it's.
Yeah, and I can send it.
You're the one buying, so it's your decision, you know what I mean? But, so let's say July 15th, and then, we also have something, at that point, we'll have a decision, and we'll have something to at least report to, advisory board in August.
But she'll send
Right.
everything to us, everybody's suggestions to us.
Yeah, we'll share everything, and then,
Send it the same way as I said this.
you know, you get a consensus, if we get a consensus, then Jamie buys the
And
bench.
if it doesn't feel like we have one, then we'll.
Well, right.
It's,
Sorry.
yeah, my timeline is whatever y'all's timeline you want to have.
Factors, like, you know, and I did start this, with, like Nancy and I basically saying, I want to, like, let's get this thing going now, considering all the factors. There isn't a huge rush here. These are important decisions. So we're not gonna drag our feet. We've got it on the agenda. We're talking about it. We've already spent 40 minutes talking about this today, so we're moving forward. But, you know, let's make thoughtful, considerate decisions,
Yeah,
you know, and based on also, you know, stakeholders, major stakeholders in the region.
and Lyle, you could definitely send me some that you see, and I'll include that in the group, the feedback and everything too, didn't mean to tell you weren't part of the committee, I'm just trying to move some.
Don't
decisions.
worry, Jamie. I appreciate you and somebody's gotta keep control of all of us. So I respect that.
Yeah, but feel free to send me anything too, and so then we'll have that back, and, you know, ultimately, it's. if we
We're
wanna-
talking about the code or like how to move along with that, right?
Furniture styles.
And I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I have seen this, but I didn't.
I don't want to really get involved in the furniture style, just, you know, that's you guys. When you want to start talking about, you know, code and the seating plans and all that, I would love to be a part of that.
Oh, yeah, I can send the ordinance out to everybody on that.
So, and that's on the agenda that would be for our September meeting.
Yeah.
Matthew has good taste. I go with what he says.
We're gonna,
By the way, I did not get that. She just sent it to me, the Seventh Avenue Furniture Decision Points. I looked at all my email. I don't know what, maybe I deleted it, but if it just.
I got it.
I know, I just did. She gave it to me, so I have it, but I don't know if anyone else missed it.
It would almost make sense that if each one of us have a couple we want to present, talk about the attributes of each one
I don't,
and lay them out, and then maybe we all vote for first, second, third, and the one that gets the most votes, whether it's first or second, is what we go for.
we're only talking 8 people on this committee that
Yeah, but we have a lot of opinions.
apparently.
all right, so with respect to everyone's time, I would suggest we move forward,
Table.
but I totally agree, Nancy. So let's please, unless there's anything else that's really important, if we can go ahead and move forward to public art policy, Jamie, you think?
I'd say this was also, I sent this out with the agenda on Friday too. It's probably best. Patty, I must have the wrong email then because this.
No, I got the agenda. I looked at it again and the minutes. This wasn't attached. I have not seen it.
In the email.
Well, I know, I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, so I'd say it's probably best to, just everybody review it and then we have that, push that for the next two, once we get done with the furniture, because we're not gonna have the time to really move on to the next, for today, it's already after 10. Yeah, so I don't really.
That's fine. Yeah, I didn't get that
All right,
one.
so-
It was in this email. I didn't
Yeah,
get
it
it.
was in the.
So everybody, I mean, as far as finishing out the agenda for today, I don't think there's anything on new business, formal discussion. I don't necessarily want to go there right now. But if you have something, please speak up before we adjourn the meeting. Anybody?
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 Going once.
All right. Meeting's adjourned, everybody.